Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description and every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say I'm watching so-and-so show, and then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it, and that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic, one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. One mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about Season 2, Episode 6 of Showtime's Yellowjackets, entitled Key. This episode title is spelled Q-U-I, but it's pronounced Key, like I just said. I learned that from Googling Q-U-I. Turns out it's a French word meaning who is an H-W-H-O, not who like the sound owl makes. I don't have any definitive, like, this is what this means commentary for the episode title, but I think it's referring to the it that Natalie references often, and the being that has been haunting the girls in the wilderness and now seems to have followed them home. And it tracks, so we've been hearing a lot of these kind of like ambiguous French pronouns to describe it. We've been hearing them for a large part of this season. I can only think that the Who is referring to this being because the being is who stepped their game up in this episode. So there's a lot to talk about what it did, or what Who did, what Key did. Maybe it should be his name, Key. Just call it Key. What was Key up to this week? But yeah, I've had a lot of complaints this season, but I've loved how all of the adult women, I made that sound past tense. I loved how all the adult women were kind of like drawn / compelled to go to Lottie's cult in this episode. And I love the reasons for getting Ty and Shauna there in this episode as well. Like, there were very believable reasons that the show set up in previous episodes, with Ty's we're not where we're supposed to be, that we got, I think that was the last one. And Jeff's kind of like, throughout this entire season, Jeff's constant concern about Shauna's mental state. So like they've kind of been building up to where it didn't feel like they just sent them off the Lottie's cult and they just agreed to go, just kind of like, and it felt like, I don't believe that they would go there. They did a good job of making that feel plausible. But those are the how do I write these characters into this one location for how we want to end the season reasons. I also liked the in-universe reasons as well. There's this overt, I think you should go to the wellness center to help with your mental state reason that, Jeff has for Shauna, but the show put a lot of effort into letting us know that this being is essentially gathering them there. I don't want to say against their will, but kind of like unbeknownst to them. They're being drawn to this location, the Lottie's cult. And I liked how the episode was subtle with the wilderness demon wants me here reason and believable / plausible with the more overt reasons. Like Lottie, and I'm going to talk about this scene. Lottie kind of talks about the wilderness demon wanting them there to be together, but like watching all that form and then thinking about how circumstances put Natalie there and Misty, and then now it's going to put Shauna and Thaisa and Van and Lottie, who we didn't even have last season. So we're going to get extra adult team members all at this location. And I like how they got this there. It's believable. It was plausible. And I feel like they put in the work to get me to buy into the idea that that Key is working working really hard at getting all of these women to the same location. But I thought this episode was strong in general, like in an overall sense. You know, they went for a lot in both timelines, the adult timeline, the kid timeline. And I think they nailed pretty much everything, like broadly speaking. Like the things they were going for, they nailed. There were a couple of moments where I was kind of like, you know, my favorite, I don't know how I feel about that. A couple of moments like that, but nothing crazy. By and large, really good episode. You know, I've been hard on this season, none of which I take back, by the way. But this episode was peak Yellowjackets. You know, it was tough to watch, brutal, scary, devastating, heart-wrenching, all of that shit within that 60-minute time frame. And it answered, as you guys know, my most pressing question, the thing I wanted to know about the most, and it swung for the fences in attempting to do so. And I respect that. Whether you, I don't know, I like I told you guys before, I don't read other reviews before I do a video because I'm married to the idea that I want you guys to get my thoughts and my thoughts only, not my thoughts of like through the lens of Variety or Hollywood Reporter, or my thoughts in the sense of like, this is what I think everyone wants to hear because I'm too chicken shit to criticize the show. So I take a lot of pride in not listening or consuming other people's reviews before I talk to you guys. And so I don't know how people are responding to this episode, and especially because, you know, for a lot of people, they're not even gonna watch it till Sunday. So I don't know how the end of the episode is being taken. You might take it as like, oh, fuck this, because that kind of thing doesn't go over well with a lot of people. You might think that they pulled it off perfectly, whether you like it or you didn't like it. I think you still have to respect the fact that they swung for the fences with it. And I think that even if you don't like it, you can still acknowledge that they, by and large, pulled it off. So, like, you know, I respect what they did with this ending. Well, let's talk about the episode. I've been talking for 5 or 6 minutes. I haven't said shit about the episode yet. Well, I've said shit about it, but we have not the details. So let's talk about it. I'm going to start with the adult timeline because, fortunately for me, we really only have 2 things going on in this episode, as opposed to our usual kind of like multiple character arcs and multiple timelines. Like, here's what happened with adult Lottie. Here's what's happening with kid Lottie. Here's what's happening with adult Miss. You know, it's just really the adults converging on Lottie's cult and Shauna going into labor, and that's it. So I like that. I like the simplicity of this episode as well. So like I said, starting with the adults. When we left Misty last week, she was abandoning Walter, who had just accused her of killing Adam, and she was heading back to Lottie's cult. So Misty gets there, and she starts to barrage Lottie with all sorts of questions. You know, what the fuck? What's going on with Natalie? And Lottie motions as if she has like a migraine, like she gets a pain in her temples or in her head. And then she asks Misty to stay at the cult, you know, like to help her with Natalie. And I want to talk about this because Lottie talks about how it is controlling her. I'm sorry, Key. How Key is controlling her, and I feel like I'm gonna start calling this motherfucker Key for the rest of the season. Like, they don't give it a name. Like, come on, man. Like, what's the name of the fucking Satan statue? Bahamut or some shit. Give him a name like that. Bahamut, something like that. Anyway, like I said, she talks a lot about how it's controlling her, and I'm thinking that's what happens in this scene. Like, whatever happened in her head was Key communicating with Lottie. Key's desire to have Misty there. And we see that play out because Key apparently wants them all there. But speaking of Key, I love the scene with Lottie and the psychiatrist where she talks about how it sent Nat, Travis, and Misty to her to let her know it was real. Like, that was a super creepy and intense scene. And that's the kind of stuff that Yellowjackets needs to lean into. Like, I love how it ends with the shrink asking what it is. And Lottie's like, it's the power of this place, or I think she says the power and the god of this place, and she says they did terrible things in its name. Like, that's just some scary shit to be saying. So, like, I thought that was a sick fucking scene. That shrink scene, that was dope. So, meanwhile, Kevin and his dirtbag partner have Shauna and Callie come to the station for questioning. Now, again, I just want to say up front, I really enjoyed this episode, so I'm not gonna harp on this, but I'm still calling bullshit on this entire fucking investigation with Kevin and his fucking dirtbag sleazeball partner. Like, I'm not gonna revisit the ridiculousness of the fucking lotion cum heist from last week, but I can't accept that they can do all that, get to the point of discovering lotion in a condom and go, this is all the evidence we need to call that mom and daughter to the station and levy all sorts of accusations against them. Like, I feel like every step these two have taken in this investigation has been illegal as fuck and implausible as fuck, right down to how they questioned them separately once they arrived. Like, I've watched a lot of Law and Order. Are you allowed to question an underage person without a parent? Like, I feel like that's not allowed, especially when they came in there voluntarily. Like, she wasn't arrested for having committed a crime. She came in to answer questions. Like, I don't know, that I could be wrong again. I'm not a lawyer, so I could be wrong. Maybe you can do that. But like, that felt wrong to me, how they purposely split them up. Like, that's some shit you do when you try to catch motherfuckers and like, they killed somebody and there's 3 people involved, so you try to see if they all got their stories aligned. This ain't that deep. Like, you invited them in there because you found lotion in a condom. Like, as far as we know, they don't presently suspect them of killing Adam. Anyway, I'm supposed to just sit here and believe it's okay to separate a mother and daughter for questioning. And then on top of that, they let fucking pervert Jeff Foxworthy talk to the underage girl alone. Like, come on, man. Like, unforced errors, man. They ain't have to do that. Like, at least put a second cop in each room or something like that. Or at least put a second cop in the room with Callie and Jeff Foxworthy. Have Shauna go, hey, are you allowed to just take her like that? Even if they still question them separately, one-on-one. If all I need is for Shauna to go, hey, are you allowed to do that? Because then that lets me know that the show is acknowledging that I'm supposed to be looking at that like, hey, wait, can you do that? I don't know, man. Unforced errors like that. But I said I wasn't going to harp on it, so let's move on. Natalie's doing target practice at the cult, and Forkface comes up, and I have nicknames for everybody. And they have the first of 2 really good conversations. I'm only going to talk about this one, though. And this one, Natalie talks about blaming herself for Travis's death. And she says they did some fucked up stuff in the wilderness. And she says, maybe it was to survive, but maybe we don't deserve to. Man, that was a deep-ass line, man. That was a deep thought. Like, can you do something, this is rhetorical, can you do something so bad in order to live that by doing that act, you no longer deserve to live? Like, that's crazy, man. That's some wild shit. And that's a level of guilt I don't ever want to have to live with, trust me. But yeah, I thought that was a really dope line because that really gives you something to think about. So Taissa is still with Van, and some of the stuff that I don't like is still creeping up. For instance, they have this weird discussion over the "we're not where we're supposed to be" line, and Ty's like, "What do you think was meant by?" Like, I said "we." What do you think I meant by that? It's 2 of you there. Who the fuck you think it was supposed to be? Like, if it's me and one other person in the room, and they go, "We're not where we're supposed to be," I'm not gonna go, "Who the fuck is we?" It's me and you. Like, what the fuck? And then they have like an actual drawing out, like, oh, maybe it's supposed to be us. Do you think so? No, it couldn't be that. We're not even together anymore. Like it's supposed to mean we, like, as a couple. That was such a stupid fucking scene. And they made both of those characters look like fucking morons in that scene. That was laughably dumb. I'm sitting there like, how are they having a drawn out, like, an actual conversation? Like, oh, do you think that was supposed to be us? Like, me and you, we? No, and then it becomes like this weird, like, the who's on first gag, like, oh, does it mean we? No, what about us? Us like a couple? No, like, I'm like, what are you, like, this, like, they are overcomplicating that unnecessarily, and I don't even get the purpose of that scene. Like, when I did the video last week, when I said, like, oh, and then Night Taissa is like, we're not supposed to be here, and I'm like, oh, where are they supposed to go? Like, I don't understand how you can watch that scene in episode 5. I don't think there's a single fucking living human who watched that and was like, who the fuck is we? Like, and then they had this whole stupid fucking conversation about what we was supposed to mean. And I'm just like, what is the point of this? Why did you even put this in the episode? Who wrote this clumsy fucking moronic scene? This shitty fucking dialogue? And I'm just like, these are the kind of things that it feels like the show has kind of like decreased the great shit that it did in quantity in season 1 and inserted shit like this that we don't fucking need and that drags down the show. Like, this was the best episode of the season. And I'm shitting on this scene pretty hard, but like, this was the best episode of the season to me pretty easily. And it still has a scene where I'm just sitting here mad as fuck that they made me watch that somebody wrote that stupid fucking conversation. And like, I didn't have these issues in season 1. And that's the kind of stuff that, this is why this season is inferior to the first one for me. Because there's too many things like this that take me out of the shit that I'm supposed to be enjoying, and now I'm sitting here wondering why I'm watching two characters have a stupid fucking conversation that two people with IQs over 5 wouldn't have in real life. Like that just really irritated me, obviously. So we spend a few scenes watching Ty and Van waste our fucking time. I'm sorry, get caught up before Misty calls her and tells her that the whole crew is at Lottie's cult, which is when Ty realizes the obvious, and that's where they're supposed to be. Yes, her and Van. That's the we, the us, whoever the fuck, whatever you want to call it. Y'all supposed to be at Lottie's cult. She then calls up Shauna, and then her and Van head off. Jeff answers Shauna's phone because, like I said earlier, her and Callie are being treated like black people in a police station. So, side note, Jeff listening to Fuck the Police when that scene started. Love it. Love it. Big proponent of Fuck the Police, both the song and the mantra. I'm stupid, dog. I'm really stupid. Like I said earlier, though, they split up Callie and Shauna, which kind of unexpectedly split the good and bad portions of this collective story. So Shauna talks with pervert Jeff Foxworthy, and there's a great scene where she talks about never having wanted to have Callie, marrying Jeff out of guilt and shame. But they lessened this scene by pointlessly having a joke at the end of it. Again, something season 1 probably wouldn't have done, but it was still a great scene nonetheless. And given the events of the end of the episode, it makes you really want to examine or re-examine how Shauna must feel about Callie and having Callie, given what happened to what would have been her first child, or what was her first child. Then they have Callie talking to Kevin, and she accuses his partner of taking her virginity. And I, again, just wanted to throw something at the TV because of just how mind-numbingly stupid of a plan that was. Like, just as dumb as the pointlessly doing the fucking Randy fucking charade from last week was saying that, like, accusing the partner of having sex with her. Like, I don't even have to explain to y'all how dumb that was. Like, y'all know that was a stupid fucking thing to say, right? And then she, like, gets back in the car like, hey, Mom, I did the thing you told me to, and it worked. I'm like, so Shauna's had 2 consecutive weeks of dumb fucking plans? Like, I just wish they didn't do stupid shit like this. And they've added this part. Like, they've added this feature of, like, characters saying and doing stupid and implausible things that take you out of your enjoyment of the episode and your immersion into it. Like, it takes you out of that shit. And they introduced that this season. And that's, I think, what really irritates me is that I never once, you guys who are here, you saw, I heaped praise upon this show every fucking video for season 1. It's still to date my strongest performing video series in the channel's history. I fuck with this show. And they just decided to insert and introduce stupid fucking lines and characters and decisions. And, like, it's really dragged down the rest of the show. But anyway, I thought this was the best episode. So I really need to ease up a little bit. Like, every single scene tied to the cops and Shauna's family has been absolutely terrible. Like, it's been implausible, lazy, and quite frankly insulting. And the only good moment was the one with Shauna that I just mentioned. But the cum caper from last week and now this ludicrous lie from Callie, I just can't wait till this story arc is over. But at least they're leaving now. Jeff talks to Ty and then tells Shauna when she returns what Ty said, and then he recommends that Shauna go to the wellness center, the cult, and to help her with her mental health. And that's how all the Yellowjackets ended up at the same cult. And the adult portion of the episode ends with us seeing that the way this outside seating area at the cult is organized from a bird's eye view, an aerial view. It's organized in the shape of the symbol. And I wonder if that's intentional, like if Lottie positioned stuff that way or whatever, but I hope it's not, because I really, really, really like the idea that the people there just unwittingly at the behest of Key organized chairs, tables, and all that shit in that shape, unbeknownst to them. I think that's really fucking cool. I like that, and I hope that's what happened. So moving on to the kids' storyline, and then obviously we're going to wrap it up. I don't even have any thoughts, so we're going to talk about these some of the big moments from Shauna's labor scenes in this episode, and that's going to be that. So the episode opens with a flashback that's meant to tie in with the wilderness storyline. We see Ben teaching a health class, which reminds me of taking both health and gym when I was in high school. Like I took gym for one semester, and then the other semester you take health at the same time. Apparently that's what they were doing in whatever the fuck school they were at. I should remember the name of the school too. Anyway, everyone's goofing off except for Misty, which almost explains the girls acting like Misty was Doogie fucking Howser, which Shauna was having to be. They're like, we don't know where's Misty? I'm like, they had one class. Anyway, present day, Shauna's going into labor, and all the girls are justifiably running around like chickens with their heads cut off. Everyone's panicking. The girls are relying on Doogie to help deliver this baby. But unfortunately, Misty is panicking the most because Crystal was supposed to help, but she killed the fuck out of Crystal last week, so... I almost lost a dumbbell on my TV during this scene, though. When Lottie says, what did she write? Let's all hold hands and share our hopes. I jumped that bitch positive thinking they never deliver a baby in the history of fucking Earth. Like, you better stop hoping and start acting. Like, you say, let's share our hopes. Like, there's a child trying to give birth, and you want to talk about your hopes and dreams? What's that supposed to do? Anyway, afterward, Lottie motivates Misty to step her game up, and Misty does help with delivering the baby later on, but we're going to come back to that. Travis grabs a skull, and they start leaving offerings on it. He leaves his blood, someone leaves their hair. And I like how the camera kind of pans over, and you see Misty and Taissa sitting at Shauna's side while she's in labor, forced to watch the people they're dating convert to Lottie's lunacy. I love, you see them looking over like, God damn it, man. like Taissa's looking over like, oh, here go Van with some fucking sharing our hope shit. This wasn't the same scene, but I don't know. I thought that was funny. Then later, though she doesn't leave Shauna's side, we do see Taissa join in with Lottie's chanting too. And the disgust on Shauna's face, it really resonated with me because I share said disgust. So Shauna passes out, and when she comes to, everyone is surrounding her in a big circle. You've probably seen this on TV before, the camera's coming from the character's POV, and they're looking around, and you see all the people. It's very Wizard of Oz, and you were there, and you were there. And she's looking around, seeing everybody. There's a nice, warm filter on the camera. Everything's very brownish, kind of yellowish, making you feel warm and at home and comfy. The edges of the screen are kind of blurry, making you think oh, man, this feels like a dream state. It's so nice and comforting. If I didn't know better, I'd think it wasn't even real. Anyway, so Shauna's baby is born, shockingly without antlers, and we move forward with a series of scenes that kind of bordered on unwatchable for me. And not because they were bad or anything like that, but watching Shauna struggle to get the baby to breastfeed was tough. There's no Walmart for formula. There's no one else there with breast milk, and she's barely getting enough nutrition to produce breast milk on her own. So I'm sitting here you can miss me with showing me a baby slowly starving to death. I don't need that. A bit too much for your boy. But just when it started to feel too real, you could hear the baby crying off screen, and it sounded like a baby doll with a damaged voice box. I'm like, oh yeah, this shit ain't real. That's just a toy baby in there anyway. Who cares if it's not breastfeeding? And there's a moment where Shauna wakes up and Lottie is breastfeeding her baby, and that's the moment where Lottie should have been the next person to get eaten. Lottie has consistently been crossing the line with this baby. She is a habitual line stepper. You put your titty in another woman's baby's mouth without permission, your time on this earth gotta come to a close. I'm sorry. And in response to this, there's a wonderful scene where Shauna, and side note, the actress who plays Shauna absolutely crushed this fucking episode all fucking day. Great job by this actress. She finally gets the baby to feed. And the joy that this actress emotes in this scene, it felt really authentic. I have 4 kids. I can understand how worried she must have been not being able to feed given the circumstances that I mentioned a moment ago, how relieved she must be to get it to feed. But unfortunately, that relief is quickly gone. And Shauna wakes up to discover what she thinks is everyone else eating her baby, but then the reality is just as bad, finding out the baby didn't actually survive the birth at all, and the whole saga of getting it to feed, none of that actually happened. And the episode ends with an incredibly chilling scene of Shauna crying, saying she can still hear the baby crying. Then she starts asking everyone else why they can't hear it crying, and she keeps asking over and over and over. And as the camera pans across, Shauna turns and looks directly into the camera, and she's kind of framed off to the side. And she's still asking why can't you hear it? Why can't you hear him crying? Or something like that. She's crying and asking us, the audience, like why we can't hear it. The screen goes black. She's still asking. You can still hear it. Sick fucking scene, man. Great close to the episode. Like I said, I thought this was the best episode of the season. Again, it continued to have some of the stupid shit that I don't like, but this week they counterbalanced that stupid shit with a whole lot of really great shit. So kudos to them. Great episode this week. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and I will see you guys next Friday for episode 7. And until then, peace.